Guess who's back? Finally. So I apologize, guys. I missed the past couple of weeks of iron therapy and mental iron. I'm hoping Dave and I can do our next iron therapy next week, Monday. So I am doing a live Q&A, my first one for 2023. And let me begin by saying Happy New Year to everyone. You might notice my voice is still a little bit rough, and I'm still getting over my post-Olympia flu and cold, but I'm feeling much better. So I am so excited to be back here with you guys. I have so much content in my head that I want to share with you and talk to you about. So welcome everyone back. And certainly if you guys have questions, put them in the chat or post them below and I will answer them. But today's topic, and again, we can, if you guys want to ask questions about anything else, that's fine, absolutely ask. But today's topic is about New Year's resolutions. Is it underrated or overrated? So I want to talk about the pros and cons about New Year's resolutions. So let me talk about the pros. A lot of times we are so busy in our day-to-day lives that we're just to get through the day, we have to accomplish certain things. And before you know it, the day is gone. It's like, where did the day go? Where did the week go? Where did the month go? And before you know it's the end of the year. And where did the year go? So, New Year's is that traditional time where a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people will make New Year's resolutions. So one of the good things, I'm going to talk about some pros and cons here, but I'm going to start with the pros. One of the good things is that it gives us time to put in stock into reflecting on our behavior over maybe the past year and say, what are some things that didn't go so well that I might want to improve upon next year? So it gives us time to reflect and make some desired changes. And sometimes we're so busy in our day-to-day lives, we don't have time to do that. So this is kind of like that designated societal kind of time for us to be able to do that. Jonathan, Happy New Year. Thanks for joining. It's nice to see you. And again, I apologize, guys, that I hadn't missed the past couple of weeks. I wasn't feeling great. But I am back. Although I'm not 100%, I'm feeling so much better. And I'm so happy to be engaging with you guys again. Because I kept thinking about all the content that I want to talk to you guys about. And I just felt so crappy. It was a hard time for me to even get out of bed. I still haven't made it to the gym yet. My energy isn't as high as I'd like it to be. I do tend to crash pretty soon. So we'll see how long I can last for today. But I'm going to do my best not to miss any more episodes because it's really important for me to get this content out. And once again, if you guys have any, if you want to chime in, whether it's with certain responses or questions, please feel free to do so. So I was just saying one of the good things about New Year's resolutions is that it makes us take accountability, take the time to actually reflect and say, okay, this is something I want to change, let's say moving forward. So it gives us permission to take that time out of our traditionally busy days to say, okay, what change do I want to make? So that's obviously a good thing because we can always make, I feel, improvements. Now, the thing is that to do change, now, I don't know if you guys have a computer that does this, but I had one of those computers that, I would have to kick sometimes for it to work. And I would have to do something with these three buttons called Control, Alt, Delete. What that is for, I don't know if that still happens now, but it basically resets the computer. The New Year's resolution kind of gives us that second chance or give us that permission to say we can make change, and we give ourselves permission to say, okay, 2022, then it's gone. We can't do anything about it. We have the hope of a new year of getting some more desired changes, which is great. Hey, Mel, nice to see you. Happy New Year. Okay, consistency. And we're going to talk about that, Mel, because consistency is so brutal. And I promise you, I will get to that because that is so, so important. So the New Year's resolutions, I'm going to talk about the problems with New Year's resolutions in a moment, but the pros are, gives us stock to saying, okay, here's our second chance it's almost like a do-over as far as getting a second chance to improve something about our lives. I'm not saying everything, just pick one and then work on that. Now, this does not mean you can't at some other point time of the year make a goal. There's nothing wrong with doing keep in mind what the resolution is. It doesn't mean you can only make New Year's resolutions on New Year's Day, as an example. It just kind of gives us that kind of societal permission to saying, okay, everyone, let's kind of join in. So it's almost that societal, okay, we've all screwed up. Let's do this together. So it's almost that sense of community, maybe getting some support from one another to say, yeah, you can do this goal, because we're all going through that phase. So, it's nice to have that social support and accountability. Some people post their New Year's resolutions online, whether it be on social media or, maybe through an email, through their family, saying, hey, this is what I want to do, and I want to be accountable to you guys. I also want to celebrate when I am able to do some of these things. So it gives you the accountability. So here's the thing, without accountability, it's very hard to be consistent. So you can get accountability from different people. And again, I will go into the consistency a little bit more, Milton, because that is such an important part. So I'm not going to say New Year's resolutions are awful for everybody, because like I said, it gives us that opportunity to say, hey, give us that do-over of making a change. But I do want to talk about some of the cons, and then I'm going to talk about actually how to address these cons. So how you can actually make New Year's resolutions work for you. So one of the cons are, because sometimes people, whatever your goal is, let's say, and this is a very common one, this may not be yours, but it's just a very common one. After some holiday eating, maybe you've gained weight and you want to lose that weight. So one of your goals might be, I want to lose the weight I gained over the holidays. Again, I'm not saying that's your goal. I'm just using that as an example. If you're going to rely strictly on willpower, saying, okay, I'm going to start January. Well, what's today? Is today January 2nd? Hold on. It's a blur to me, days. January. Yes, today is January 2nd. So let's say today is the day that you start saying, I'm going to just work on willpower. I'm not going to touch the leftover. If you have Christmas cookies or treats or whatever that may be, like goodies or food that may not be exactly lean left over in your fridge. Willpower on its own usually does not work. You might have the willpower to stay away from it for maybe an hour, maybe even a day, if you're lucky. But at some point, our willpower starts to diminish. And especially if you're around other people who are eating that food, it becomes that much more tempting. So if your New Year's resolution is to lose, let's say, the holiday weight that you've gained, willpower alone is going to set you up for failure. Now, to set yourself up for success is to, I don't know if you've heard of this acronym, setting SMART goals. So SMART, when I say acronym, it means the first letter of that word has certain characteristics. So SMART meaning S being specific, such as, I want to lose my holiday weight. Okay. Let's say I'm going to make a number up. Let's say you gained 15 pounds. Maybe it was less, maybe it was more. Again, I'm just pulling a number out of the air just to give you my example. So a SMART goal, be specific. I want to lose 15 pounds. Okay. Measurable. Okay, you said 15. Is that achievable? Well, first of all, what's your time frame? If you're going to say you're going to lose 15 pounds in a couple of weeks, that's not realistic. And you're going to set yourself up for failure, because even if you lean, and I've seen these actually on posters when I drive to saying you can lose 15 pounds in 2 weeks or whatever. Maybe that's water. When I say 15 pounds, I'm assuming you mean fat. You're not talking about you want to lose 15 pounds of muscle. You don't want to lose 15 pounds necessarily of water. Some of that weight will be water. But most people, when they say they want to lose weight, most of the time they mean fat. So that's what I'm going to assume that you mean by that. Let me just see this. Just my New Year's resolution is to stop looking at porn. Okay, that's not a bad resolution. Mill, I got my son a gym membership for Christmas, and he's been going with me. That's good. That helps with accountability. Pop-Tarts. Okay, I got the when I went to the expo, I got the protein Pop-Tarts through what are they called now? I'm forgetting. Legendary Foods. They're okay. But, again, with the breakdown, it's not the same as real food. Are they the worst things in the world? No. But, if you're going to eat better, try not to take shortcuts. So when we're talking about the goals, I didn't go through all this. What SMART means: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. So what do I mean by timely? It has to be, put a time frame on it. Don't just say I'm going to lose 15 pounds. What would be more specific to saying, do you want your goal to be, let's say in the first week, you lose 2 pounds? That may not be unrealistic in the first week. You might lose more than that. And again, some of that will be water. The second week, I wouldn't necessarily say I'm going to lose 2 to 3 pounds every week. The first week is usually, if you eat clean, will be the most amount of weight you lose in the beginning, but it will start slowing down. So it might be, I'm setting a goal of losing, let's say, again, eating clean, 2 pounds the first week. The next week might be 1 pound to 1.5 pounds. That's going to be realistic. Maybe the following week, 1 pound. Maybe the following week, 0.5 pound. And if you go beyond that, great. I would rather you set something low and something you achieve. Because what can happen is we can get into our heads, meaning that if we set something that's unrealistic, meaning if it's not as timely or not being realistic about the results, even if we eat clean, because you can eat clean and not lose as much weight as you want. And there's a whole bunch of reasons for that. But if we take that personally to say, hey, look, I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to do and I'm plateauing after 4 weeks. That's why a lot of people actually go off their diets. They don't get the results. It's because they didn't set realistic goals. I also tell people it's not just goals. Now, here's the thing. Goals can be too small. And then let's say your goal, I'm just using this as an example. I'm not saying you guys are doing this, but let's say your goal is, I am going to drink more water. Okay, well, let's say how much water. Let's just say I'm going to add 1 liter a day of water to my, whatever I'm drinking water-wise, I'm going to up it by 1 liter for the next week. Okay, that's realistic. What if you increase your water, which is good. And by the way, there's a lot of healthy benefits for increasing your water intake. But what if you're still not losing weight? Was that one of is that the only way that you were going to lose weight is to add water? I'm not saying adding water is bad, but sometimes there needs to be a formula as far as what you do. Now, if the goal is just drink more water, again, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but if your goal is to lose fat, there needs to be other components. So if you're not losing fat and you're drinking more water, then you can get discouraged and give up. And you might get bored of the goal because it was too easy. It was too easy, especially if drinking water is not a big deal to you. Now, it can be too hard. Now, sometimes we think with New Year's resolutions to saying, this is my goal. I have to do this all year, so it better be a really good goal. That means I have to set the bar super high. Well, do you? Do you? What about if you set a goal, not too easy, but not too hard? And what about if the goal was not static? What do I mean by that? Why does the goal have to be set in stone and you can't modify it? So what I mean by that is, let's say, again, I'm going back to the same example. Let's say I want to lose the holiday weight. Again, it can be any goal. I'm just using that as an example. If that's the goal, and let's say you haven't been to the gym in a month, the goal might be to set out your gym clothes the night before. And that might mean, well, Lesley, that's nothing. I'm not even working out. I'm just putting my clothes out. You're one step closer to that goal, and you did more than you did yesterday. The idea of a New Year's resolution is to make continual, consistent habits. It's not something that you just do once and that is it. Because a lot of times, if you've talked to anyone or if you've experienced, let's say you set a goal of losing weight and you lost the weight. Okay, cool. Now, can you keep it off? So it's hard to lose weight, but to keep it off is also hard, and it requires a strategy with some lifelong behaviors. There's not, see, a lot of times people get caught. I start a diet, I finish a diet, then I can go eating to the way I was. No, you can't. You can treat yourself. Maybe you have to modify your eating a bit. Maybe you can incorporate some cheat meals, but it doesn't mean you can't go back to eating the way you were, because then your body will go back to the way you were. So in order to do some life-changing habits, the resolutions are it's a kickstart to start habits. It's not an end goal. So what I mean by that is, and going back to the static, is it starts with small goals, attainable, maybe too attainable initially, such as setting your gym clothes out. Okay, how about the next day you up the game? You actually go. But plan, what are you going to do? Are you going to do cardio? Or are you going to do weights? Choose one. And maybe you do a 5-minute walk as a warm-up on your treadmill or on the gym treadmill. And then you do a little bit of weights. But have a plan. What are you going to do? You're going to do upper body, lower body. You're going to do a different type of split. Are you going to do full body? Plan what you're going to do. How many times are you going to work out that week? Up it a little bit every day. Doesn't mean you have to go from not training at all to being at the gym 6 or 7 days a week. If you do everything you are supposed to do, theoretically, to a T, that might be 100 little details. Realistically, even if you did those 100 little details in a day, maybe 2 days, how many days can anyone, not just you, any human being, do 100 different details that they're not used to doing? How long is that going to last before they give up? And then they're going to be like, I can't do these details. So these details are going to be negated because I couldn't do those. Why bother? I give up. I'm not doing this resolution anymore. So it's really important to set goals, realistic goals, smart goals, and you might need to start small. That's okay. And you might be able to, based on your accomplishment of those goals, change those goals and add on to it. So the overall goal might be lose the holiday weight, but you might add on to how you get there. Make them small, measurable steps. Because the alternative is you don't take any steps at all. So if anytime you're saying, well, this is too easy, Lesley, assuming that you're taking incremental steps upward, you're still making more movement than you did if you didn't do anything. Or if you rushed it, did a whole lot, and again, I'm blowing it out of the water just to make my point, 100 different details. May not be 100, could be, could be 50, still a lot of details. And then stopping yourself, and then you end up going back to the way you were. And sometimes people gain even more weight because then they feel guilty. They feel a sense of shame. What do you do? Well, I'm not saying again everybody, but people can fall into the emotional eating trap, meaning I feel bad. Why bother? It's not helping. I'm just going to make myself feel better by eating a bunch of junk food or drinking or whatever. Unhealthy behaviors. Now, also, typically, sometimes people are so used to planning for, let's say, Christmas, if you celebrate Christmas, whether it be with family, whether it's with neighbors, whether it's getting people presents, it's all the planning. So it's all this planning about getting into Christmas that all of a sudden, before you know it, it's New Year's. You have to make these New Year's resolutions, but you don't put enough thought into it as far as what you're going to do. So they feel rushed and they're not planning properly what their resolution should look like. Another thing I want to talk about is tips on doing resolutions correctly. Now, first of all, they don't have to be on January 1st. You can do these. Again, resolutions are meant to be, how do I get consistency of a changed behavior because I don't like something about myself, whatever that is, or I want to do an accomplishment, whatever that is. So one of the tips on doing a resolution right is that you focus on one main goal at a time. It doesn't mean you can't have other goals, but if you spread yourself too thin, it's too hard to have your hands in too many buckets. Because remember, change is hard and it requires time and energy. This is on top of running your household, working, whatever job you're working. You have to put this on top of everything. So it's important for it to be manageable. And that's why I'm saying focus on one main goal at a time. Another, again, is just to capitalize on the start small. It's okay to start with a small goal and then adjust it as you progress. So let's say it is keeping different food in the house. Again, let me go back to the, as far as the losing weight. Maybe it's not buying those chips. Maybe it's buying maybe popcorn instead. And I'm not talking the heavy butter popcorn, just like air popcorn. It might be laying out your workout clothes the night before to help you get ready for the next day. It might be, oh, here's the other thing. I want you to expect and plan for setbacks. Anyone who assumes that they can do a goal, follow the plan perfectly, and nothing goes wrong is already setting themselves up for failure. I need you to set the goal, whatever your goal might be, and I want you to plan that when you fail on any level, what is your plan to address the failure? If you do not incorporate the failure or I'll call it a setback, because that's a better word. If you don't put your setback in your plan on how to execute your goal, you're setting yourself up for failure, because none of us are perfect. We can have the best of intentions, but we can all mess up. And it's part of your goal is to plan for that mess up. And what are you going to do about it? How are you going to bounce back? How do you pivot? How do you learn from that? Because if you take those setbacks personally, that this is a reflection of me and I'm a horrible person or I'm a failure or whatever, you're going to go down a rabbit hole. You're going to have self-doubt, you're going to have shame, and you're going to end up sabotaging your progress. I want you to learn how to use encouragement, not self-criticism, to feed your motivation. So when you have this self-talk, so it's these voices in our heads, and I'm not saying you literally are hallucinating, but it's the words that we say to ourselves. Now, maybe we learn these from other people, maybe as children from our parents or from teachers or from other people. Could be from social media. We can just kind of hear what they might say. Learn to talk back. Just saying, okay, I'm not perfect. Or yes, maybe I fell off the diet. I'm not saying don't take ownership. I think it's really important to take personal responsibility. But then answer back. What are you going to do about it? You can't change it. What's done is done. You have a choice now to either continue or to say, you know what? Maybe I don't have enough healthy food in my house. So whether I have to go grocery shopping or I order food to be delivered, I'll get some healthy lean proteins and some green veggies. If you don't have rice or potato or some type of starchy veggie, carbohydrate, okay, get the foods in your place so you can have proper tools to set yourself up for success. Also get support. Sometimes we need, again, and the support isn't just you can do this or give you encouragement when we feel discouraged, because we will feel discouraged. There's days when we don't feel as motivated, for sure. But it's also to keep you accountable. And whether that be, let's say, a friend, could be a family member, but you want someone who you can trust, who's not going to abuse it. You want someone who's going to be encouraging, but not be overly, it's okay on everything. To say, okay, look, what's going on? What do you need to do to fix this? And move forward. You don't need someone to already add to that negative criticism about what the hell are you doing. You do that really well on yourself. You don't need someone else to add to it. You do need to be able to be kinder with your words to saying, okay, I got to stop this. How am I going to do it? You might need a therapist to help you keep accountable and to help you plan for when things don't go right. Because again, we can plan, and like I said, it's part of the goal setting, to set up what is your backup when you have a setback. And you might have a good backup, but let's say it doesn't work for whatever reason, or maybe it works some of the time, but not all the time. Two heads are better than one. Might be helpful to check with someone, especially if they're a professional and they know your field. So for bodybuilders, I wouldn't recommend necessarily going to just any therapist. It'd be good to know a therapist who understands bodybuilding and who has participated in it, so they have a better understanding. Because sometimes you'll come across people and they'll say, well, why do you do it? Or that's not a good goal. Well, it doesn't necessarily mean it's not a good goal. but some people don't really understand where you're coming from. So it's important to be able to have someone who is informed about what you're trying to do. So whether it's bodybuilding, losing weight, whatever your goal is, has some type of expertise in it and can be objective to try to help you to plan for those setbacks. Because to say I'm not going to have a setback is setting yourself up for failure. You don't want the setback, but just saying if you have a setback, what are you going to do? What's your game plan? What's your game plan if that one doesn't work? And again, the accountability. This is how we become consistent. If we rely on ourselves to be consistent, that will carry us so far. Now, there is going to be those select individuals that don't need anyone because they're so highly disciplined. I'm not talking about exceptions. I'm talking about the general population. The general population does not have the discipline to be on themselves 24/7. And I don't mean like a drill sergeant. I mean accountable, truly accountable. And part of accountability is not kicking yourself in the ass. It's to acknowledge, yes, you effed up if you did, but not to dwell on it. Because if you're dwelling on it, you're not helping your situation. The idea is if you're going to improve, you have to give yourself the opportunity and the strategy on how to improve. Dwelling in mud is not going to get you out of the mud. And if you're not able to do that, because it's a tough thing to do, it really is, have someone that you can be accountable to hold you to that standard. Because even self-disciplined people can use other people to push them in different ways. So it doesn't mean if you're disciplined, it doesn't mean you're a horrible person if you can't do it yourself. It means sometimes it requires a different set of eyes or a different set of experiences or knowledge to maybe even take you to a different level that you didn't achieve, maybe even a better level. Just something to think about. So I'm just going to see, hey, Raul, I see you in the chat. Welcome. So if you guys had questions or comments about what you think about New Year's resolutions, if you think it's good, if you think it's bad, if you find something that works for you, if you're struggling with something, put it in the chat so I can address these. Now, for people who are watching this chat after the fact, just put it in the comments below and I will review them. If not later today, then tomorrow. And then if you have ideas for obviously next week's live Q&A, please put them in there as well. I will be putting out a video on Friday. I'm not sure the topic just yet, but there will be a mental iron episode that goes up on Friday. So I'm happy to be back in that respect as well. And if you guys have topics that you want to cover either on my videos and upcoming videos or on iron therapy with Dave Palumbo, definitely, put them in the comments below, or if you want to be more private, if you don't want your name associated with it, just put it in just send me a DM in my Instagram. And I believe my Instagram handle is in the description below, but if it's not, it's Lesley T_mental_iron. Just go on to Instagram and just send me a DM of what some of your suggestions or questions might be so I can, again, address them, or Dave and I can address them on iron therapy. Okay, so Milt, my celebration is January 11th. It's my 7-year anniversary of being sober. Okay, Milt, so what are you going to do to celebrate? Just out of curiosity. And congratulations, by the way. You're almost there. It's very good. And what's kept you accountable? Let's hear what works for you. It's a long time, 7 years. Now, guys, we are talking about New Year's resolutions, but if you do have topics or questions about anything else, might be outside of New Year's, that's fine. It can be outside the holidays. If you want to talk about the Olympia, if you want to talk about they took away the point system, anything, we can talk about it. Usually I have some type of topic I do want to talk about just to kind of carry the session and provide some information, but we can talk about other topics as well. Now, go to the gym. Going to the gym is great therapy, and I can't wait till I have the energy so I can actually do my first workout in the gym. I don't know if I'll be able to do it later this week, but I'm hoping by next week at the latest, I'll be able to hit the gym again. I did manage to get a couple cardio sessions in, so that helps. It did wind me a little bit, so I'm just kind of taking my time, but I'm trying to listen to my body. I've got so much content I want to share with you guys that I think is really going to be helpful. But yeah, I like that Milt, that you're going to the gym. What's your first, actually, so when was the last time you were at the gym, Milt, just out of curiosity? Going to the gym, it keeps you sober. That's awesome. I couldn't quit, but I decided to stop. Okay, God's honest truth. I was drinking 2 fists. Okay, Dave, just woke up one morning and said I was done. Okay. And what's interesting about that, Mel, is that you made that decision. A lot of times people feel pressured to make the decision, let's say from family members, because they're concerned about, let's say, health, or maybe, let's say, behavior. I'm getting this now from the holiday parties where family were getting together, and it wasn't necessarily merry, because sometimes when alcohol is involved, things are said, words are exchanged, old resentments or unresolved issues with certain family members can rise up, and they still don't get resolved, especially with alcohol, and that can lead to a whole bunch of drama and consequences. So that can be an issue. Let's see. So, an hour ago. Okay, cool. I'm glad you worked out. That's awesome. Okay, dude, tips on permanently breaking a bad habit. Okay. First of all, ask if you're going to permanently break a bad habit, you're aware, if you're saying it's a bad habit, you know it's not a good thing. If you're going to stop or break a habit, I need you to understand why that habit started in the first place, because it serves a purpose. So when we have something that's hard to change, even if we know that it's not a good thing, it serves a purpose. We have to understand what that purpose is, and then find, is there another way, a healthier way of getting that purpose? Because otherwise, what can happen is you can have that. This is a really good question, by the way, dude 22, that to break a bad habit is a good thing, but if you don't get the underlying cause, you're going to replace that bad habit with a different bad habit. So what happens is that if you get it at the surface, whatever the issue is, if you don't get to the deep root of the matter, the deep cause of the matter, it's going to resurface, but maybe through a different venue. So if your bad habit was porn, it's going to be substituted by something else. So it's really finding out, what does that bad habit give you that you're not getting, that you want in your life? And that might require a bit of a deep dive as far as doing the exploration. When did that start? When did that bad habit start? Have you thought of any other alternatives? Have they worked? And if not, why? Who are the people in your life that are encouraging that bad habit? And do you necessarily want those people in your life still? So you might say, well, I don't have a choice because I have family members. It's not that I'm all of a sudden going to not see my family, even if they might encourage that habit. Okay, I'm not saying don't spend time with family, but if they're not healthy for you, these people, even if they're family, you might limit your time with them, or you be selective as far as where and when and what you do with these people. So it's putting boundaries around certain things to be able to break a habit to lead you to success. Also, you want to be around people who are healthier in order to address whatever the issue is. I'm talking about the core issue. What have they been able to do to address their core issue and feed off of that? But you might need to do some psychotherapy, dude, as far as understanding where it came from, what kind of purpose it's serving. How come you haven't changed it yet? Because sometimes we don't know, because we've done it for so long, we don't even know, or we haven't done the proper reflection on it. Or how are we continually allowing, whether it's people or situations, to allow us to continue that bad behavior. You also have to have a bigger why about what, as far as I get more from not doing this or stop this behavior than I do from doing this behavior. If you don't have that why, you might need help on developing that why, because the why's got to be so strong. It doesn't matter what comes to your path, it's not worth it, because you are so laser focused, you're tuning everything else out. But you have to understand that why, or understand or even develop the why. And again, sometimes we can't do that by ourselves because it's really hard to do. So, okay, so I just want to make sure I address Milt. I find with bad habits, we focus too much on not having that habit, then it scares us. I didn't think I could cope without alcohol if that was my addiction. You know what? A lot of times, Milt, and this isn't just for you, this is for a lot of people. Sometimes we don't have confidence in ourselves. We don't trust our judgment. We feel that we're gonna screw up again. We can't trust our judgment because we keep making mistakes. Maybe different mistakes, but we're still making mistakes. Well, if we don't give ourselves the opportunity to make different choices, how are you going to develop confidence? Where do we get confidence? Now, I have talked about this before, but I think this is a really important point. There's two types of confidence. There's the kind of confidence that if things go well in your life, or let's say you make good choices, or you are successful at something, then you have confidence because you prove to yourself that you can do something, whatever that something might be. And assuming it's not too easy, it's something hard, so you have that level of achievement. But that's fragile confidence. Why is it fragile? Because it's dependent on the outcome of getting something positive back. People and champions will have this mindset that no matter how you perform, let's say from an athlete standpoint, doesn't matter the sport, no matter how much you might suck in a game or in a competition, you still feel good about yourself because of what you brought to the table. I'll look at the Olympia. And I'm just looking at open bodybuilders. By the way, it's not just open bodybuilders. I'm just using them as an example. There's a top 10. It doesn't mean that the person who came in 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, and I don't think they rank it after 15. I'm not 100%, but I don't think they do. It doesn't mean those guys were garbage. They might have brought their best package to date, to stage. A winning mindset isn't, oh, I won, so that means I'm good. If you won, the idea is, okay, what are you going to do to up your game next year or the next show? It's celebrating your win, but don't get too complacent. Does that mean number 2 is a loser? No. Number 3, number 4? No. Did they place the way they wanted? No. But confidence is saying, I know what I brought. It didn't beat that. My package didn't beat the other person's package, but I know what I can do better. Who I am as a person is not my placing. A lot of athletes do not understand that. I'm not saying you can't develop confidence from your achievements, but if that is the only way you get your confidence is through achievements, you're setting yourself up for failure because you're closing the opportunity to grow as a person, because you're shutting off the possibility that you can be confident, again, as long as you're doing the work. If you're sitting, nothing against Oprah, and I don't even know if Oprah still has her show, but if you're sitting in front of the TV, watching Oprah or Netflix all friggin' day, eating bonbons, well, of course you're not going to be in great shape. But if you're doing the right things, bring your best package, feel confident you brought your best package, see what you can do to up your game. That is a champion mindset, because every GOAT, I don't know if you know what I mean by GOAT, the greatest of all time. Whatever GOAT in whatever bodybuilding, any athletic sport, any kind of sport, any GOAT does not win all the time. You may have heard of a guy named Michael Jordan. Is he considered one of the GOATs? I think so. I would. In basketball, I would. But does that mean he played a perfect game every game? Does that mean he did not lose? Michael Jordan had confidence. Now, did he experience doubt sometimes? Yes, but what did he do about it? He learned. He studied the game. He studied his opponents. He studied what he could do. He practiced longer than anybody. Up your game. The confidence is you cross your T's, you dot your I's, you know you've done everything humanly possible. Humanly, which means you F up, but you learn from it. If you work towards being so afraid of making a mistake, that's setting yourself for failure because you're not being realistic. Because human beings by nature are not perfect. But how you deal with a mistake is very much a predictor of if you're going to be successful in life and if you have that champion mindset. Because it's not making the mistake that counts, it's what you do about it. Again, don't dwell in mud, learn from it. Learn how to get out of the mud. So let me make sure. Big boy, Happy New Year. Watching Big Ramy go from first to fifth was shocking. It was. You know what I thought initially when they did that, when they moved him over, Big Boy? I thought, because I saw him on the screen when he first came out in prejudging, and I thought, holy crap. Because I told Dave Palumbo, I said, I just had a feeling, Dave, that Ramy was not going to win. I had no reason to believe that, except I did think mentally, I didn't know if he was going to be able to do it. Not that I wish any ill will on Ramy. I understand he's such a cool guy, very down to earth, very humble, sweet guy. So it's nothing personal. I just had something told me he wasn't going to win. I told Dave Palumbo that. When he came out, I'm like, shit, I was wrong. I got to eat my words. He looks great. But then when they started the comparison round, things didn't mesh up. When they put him to the side, initially, I thought Steve put him to the side. Steve Weinberger, meaning the head judge, put him to the side because I thought that Steve was comparing everyone from second place onwards. But traditionally, even if they put the champ to the side, at some point they do put him in the center. And they never did that in prejudging. And that's what got me thinking to say, wait a second. And then I saw that something looked off in his physique. Now, I didn't have great seats when I was watching the prejudging. And at prejudging, I was in the Zappos Theater, but I didn't have great seats. So I was really relying on the big monitor. So I feel like that was very similar to maybe what you guys got on the pay-per-view kind of thing, the live stream. So there was a lot I couldn't see. So if I had better seats, I could have had a better idea. But when you put him to the side, I was surprised. Now, looking back on it, it makes a lot of sense. I thought it could have been nerves because it is normal, guys, that, I don't know if you guys saw pictures of Ramy before the Olympia, but he was looking really good. And I didn't see a lot of the issues that I saw on the show day, well, prejudging or finals. But I know nerves, when people are really nervous, that they can retain water. So it doesn't mean he didn't diet properly. It could mean that so we have something called a stress hormone known as cortisol. When that goes up, that can really impact your results. So you can look really watery or it looks from the outside view, it looks like he's fat, and he's not fat, by the way. because cortisol is that powerful. Now, also the pressure. Rami is known for practicing. And I know, like practicing, when I say practicing, practicing his posing. He did not appear from where I was sitting confident with his posing at all. So he even knew something was off. I found that also with Ian Valier. I have a lot of respect for Ian. You know, I'm not quite clear what happened with Ian, but I know that was not his best showing. And I'm rooting for Ian too. I have a lot of people I was rooting for. In the ideal world, I would love everyone to be in their best shape and then let the chips fall where they may. But I know that not everyone can be their best, not because they don't want to, because a lot of shit happens. The other thing is, I don't know if you guys know this, but it was cold backstage. Now, granted, everyone gets cold backstage because it's not like certain categories got one stage and another category got another stage. So everyone was kind of exposed to that. But going, and I'm sure you've heard a lot of people complain about this, but the pros that were going up, and I don't think they went up to, I think it was 11 or 11:30, and that was Vegas time. So they went up really, really late. That can affect your peaking, your ability to peak properly, because some people can peak earlier in the evening better than very, very late at night. So that can come down to genetics as well. And again, the timing of a lot of it was messed up. My hope is next year, and I know the people of the Olympia try to make it better every year, try to make it changes. I hope that if the reasoning of why they had the men's open, because remember the women are on one day and the men are on the other day, but they have the men's open prejudging on the same day as the women. If they're worried about ticket sales, I think there's enough that they don't need to worry about ticket sales for the women. Yes, the men's open definitely do the best, of course, but they should be on the same day. That's my 2 cents. The women can have their day. So I don't think it's the women's fault that the men went up later, because frankly, that was the women's day. It was the men's open that was on the women's day. Now, maybe they should have the women on Thursday. Some of the men, if they want to do 2-day show, do some of the men on Friday and do finals on Saturday, because they're such big categories. Now, while it was an exciting Olympia, I did think there were too many competitors. That was my own 2 cents. If you guys have a different opinion, by all means, chirp in. But yeah, the Olympia next year is going to be in Orlando, so we'll see how that goes. I did kind of like it in Vegas because it's a big city. I don't know if I would necessarily use the same venue, because there were some things that could have been, I think, changed. But again, they try to do a good job every year, and they're trying to improve upon things. So I like that about it. Okay, Milt. That's the big thing I have is fear in all situations. Fear. Okay, so let's talk about fear, Milt. Fear is usually as a result of I don't feel capable, or I don't have the answers, or the unknown. Sometimes we have the fear of the unknown. If I try something new, let's say something new is X, whatever X is, I try something new, what if it doesn't work? Does it not work because I didn't do it properly? Then that means I'm a failure because I couldn't do it properly. Well, not necessarily. Was it not working because it was the wrong solution? Well, what about if it was partly right and it was missing something? Either way, the win in a losing situation is you don't know till you try. My definition, and you guys can disagree with me, my definition of failure is not trying. Because if you don't try, you'll never know. At least if you try and it doesn't work out for whatever reason, you learn from that so that when you try again, you increase your chances of succeeding. Let's say you don't succeed on second try. You learn more and you fine tune it. But one day you will succeed. I remember when, as a kid, now I haven't been on a bike in a while, but as a kid, first time I went on a bike, boom, went down. Second time, boom, went down. I had a lot of bruises. I kept falling. And yes, we did the training wheel thing eventually. And eventually we were able to take, my mom eventually took the training wheels off and I was able to ride my bike. But I had to fall a lot of times before that happened. My point is, if you expect yourself to be an expert, meaning that you get something on the first or second try, is that realistic? Are you setting yourself up for failure? Are you setting yourself up to do something that's not achievable? Be realistic. Sometimes our fear comes from, it's not the not getting it, it's giving up. Was it Michael Jordan say you miss 100% of the shots that you never try to do, or something to that effect? If you don't try, you don't know. You can't learn. We get caught. And I kind of blame school a little bit for this. And I'm not saying school is 100% responsible, but we're taught it's bad to make a mistake. Do not make a mistake. Do whatever you can to avoid making a mistake. That's what we're taught. Because we want to do the right thing. So I understand the basic premise of that. But to me, that's too black and white. I tell people, make a mistake. Because if you don't make a mistake, how the heck are you going to learn? Because if you do something right, does that necessarily mean if you do it again, it's going to give you a positive result? It might, but it might not. Let me give you a prime example of this. As a bodybuilder, you're getting ready for a show. The peaking process, whether it's you learned it yourself through trial and error, or maybe through a coach, you learn how to peak and you peak perfectly for when you stepped on stage. And let's say you wrote down everything that you did, whether it was the water, whether it was the type of food, the quantities of food, whatever. Let's say you followed, you wrote it all down, so you had the perfect plan on how to peak. Great. You wrote it down, you're prepared. You expect to repeat that at your next show, whether it's 2 weeks from now, whether it's 2 years from now. If you expect you're going to get the same result, you're setting yourself for failure. Use it as a template. If you have time, I tell people, practice doing your peak before your show. 2-3 weeks before your show. That way, if something doesn't go properly, you can fine tune it. If it goes well, you can grow into your show. Doing the same thing may not give you the same result. Why? Because there's other factors that come into play, whether it be stress levels, whether it be temperature issues, whether the show is running on time. When I did the Amateur Olympia, no one knew, including the organizers of the show, the morning of, they found out they had to take a mandatory, according to the union, 1 hour break from 12 to 1. They had to. They had no choice. That wasn't their plan, and it set a lot of things back, and it messed up the schedule for people. But you got to roll with the punches. Not everything's going to be the exact same every show. Like I said, use it as a template, use it as a guide, but be prepared for the unexpected by having backups of things, whether that could be pink Himalayan sea salt and magnesium to prevent cramping or help address cramping. Have water. Have an open communication with your coach to kind of guide you through things if need be. Now, some people can peak themselves, and they're very comfortable doing that. They've known their body, and it works for them. Now, that often also happens for people who are more genetically gifted because they can get results a bit easier. I'm not saying everything's easy for them, but they can get results a little bit easier, or they're more predictable versus people who are not genetically gifted. So be careful when you compare notes with people too. But I agree, fear can be very intimidating. But the fear of not doing anything should be more intimidating. So I would rather people make a mistake, but I'm not saying be haphazard and just do things and wing it. Have a plan. Maybe bounce your idea off someone who knows a little bit more about whatever that plan or the subject matter of that plan is. Make small steps and see what you get. Trial and error. You can fine tune it. There's nothing wrong with fine tuning something. People get stuck in black and white thinking, meaning I have to do it this way and no other way. A lot of times people will say, what is the best back exercise? And they'll type that into Google. Okay, so I'm not saying don't get ideas. You might say, okay, I admire this IFBB Pro because they have a great back. What back exercises they do? I want a big back like them. Okay, I'm not saying you can't do that. But be prepared that if you're going to do those particular exercises, it may not work for you. I'm not saying you can't try, but understand what else is different. Maybe, genetically speaking, their back grows easier than any other body part. And maybe you're not as genetically gifted in the back department. Not to say you can't grow your back, but you may not get those results. Now, you may know a guy named Jay Cutler. Jay does this tricep push down on a bar on a cable where he's hunched over. Now, I don't know if you've seen this, but he grabs, now I'm talking about a straight bar, grabs the bar, hunched over, and the weight, I can't do this because my screen isn't big enough, where you push down, and that's how he feels his triceps. That's a mind-muscle connection. If you're not able to get the mind-muscle connection like Jay is, do not expect that training style to work for you. I've tried it. It does not work for me. I have a mind-muscle connection on a different style of tricep pushdown that works for me. Sometimes what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for another. I'm not saying you can't try it. Maybe it would work for you. Great. Try different things. But if it doesn't work, is it a reflection of you? Or is it a reflection of maybe I just need to try different exercise selection? Pivot, guys. Pivot. Meaning, if something doesn't work, rather than take it personally and say, this is something wrong with me, to say, I just got to change my approach. It doesn't mean you're a horrible person. It doesn't mean you made horrible choices. It means you were brave enough to take a chance. You realized of what didn't work. So that's one less thing that you know that's on your plate. Sometimes we don't know what works for us until we try it. And here's another thing. Something maybe we tried in our 20s, in our 30s, may have worked. But maybe when we get older, it doesn't work for whatever reason. And I'm not even talking about injuries here. It could be joints. Sometimes our joints will change as far as being less flexible. I'm not saying you can't do stuff about it as far as stretching or massage or stuff like that. But our bodies can change, so should our expectations. That's why I want to avoid you guys from the black and white thinking. Adapt. Think of it almost, do you guys know what I mean by a chameleon? A chameleon is a lizard. So yeah, I'm kind of telling you to be like a lizard, where you adapt to your environment. Now they adapt to the environment. So if they're in a green environment, they'll be all green. That's from a protective standpoint. So let's say a predator can't see them because they're camouflaged. They adapt to the environment. Now, as humans, we can adapt to the environment to a certain extent, but if it doesn't work for us, change it. change it because we're all different people. Look at twin studies. Look at identical twins. They look the same. Now, there will be certain little differences that most people, if they're close to them, will understand and see why this person's different than this, even though they might be identical twins. You can look the same parents, same upbringing. There could be other differences. Genetically gifted. You can have one twin who's genetically gifted in one area, and the other may not be genetically gifted at all, or they're genetically gifted in other areas. That can happen. Hormones, that can be different. Temperament, that could be different. Personality, that can be different. So even with twins, there are differences. So assuming you and I are not twins, we're individuals, and that's okay. The idea I want to impress upon you guys with New Year's resolutions, be one step better tomorrow than you are today. So what will that look like? People are like, where do I start, Lesley? Don't even know where to start. Okay, so let me give you a little example. Look around your room right now. Everyone, look around your room. What's one thing that kind of bothers you that you want to change? Now, for me, I have some papers that are a little unorganized on my desk. So after this, I'm going to tidy it up and put them in proper piles. All my dishes are done. My laundry's actually done. I felt like Wonder Woman yesterday because I was fighting, I call it the post-Olympia flu and cold. I got all my laundry done yesterday. I vacuumed my condo and got some food prep done. To me, that was Wonder Woman because I felt so useless because I was feeling so crappy before. My energy was super, super low. So for me to get stuff done and feel on top of things, that made me feel good. What's one thing that you see in your place right now, whether it's I don't know if you're in a condo, an apartment, a house, maybe in that room that you're in. Is there a piece of garbage, crumpled paper on the floor? Is there maybe some cups or plates maybe sitting out because someone was watching TV? What's one thing you can do? Even today, when you finish this, one small thing that you could do today, and what's one thing that you want to work on tomorrow to change your environment so you did something, didn't magically disappear, the plate didn't magically disappear, that you did something to make your environment more positive in some way. Start small. Now what are you going to do to up that? Now, that doesn't mean tomorrow you have to do something necessarily more in the household. It might be within yourself. What's one thing I can do? If I haven't been to the gym, I'm going to figure out what I'm going to wear for the following day. Or I am going to plan what I'm going to do and figure out, well, what's today? Is today Tuesday? If today's Tuesday, if I'm going to be at the gym, let's say even Friday, let me plan what kind of workout am I going to do? Am I going to do some type of split? Am I going to do full body because I haven't been in the gym in a while and I'm going to slowly get myself into it? Plan what you're going to do. Because when you plan, then your chances of executing are going to be a lot easier because you already know what you're going to do. Now, could you go all week and not go to the gym? Sure you could. Wouldn't advise it unless you're really sick. But that's just one example, going to the gym. Gym has always been my type of therapy. Therapy for the heart, the soul, and the body. For me anyway, at least. But can give you a sense of accomplishment. And regardless of, even if I do a crappy workout and I can't even lift half the weights, to me, it would be a success getting to the gym because I haven't been in the gym for a while because I've been so sick. So it doesn't matter to me what I do. What I will do is I have to monitor that I do not try to do the weights I did when I left. So what's my plan? I'm going to be very specific about my plan. I'm going to do something different that I have not done in years. And this might be over a decade. When I go to the gym, I bring a book. A little, I don't know if it was some Kohl's or if it was some chapters. Maybe, I don't even know if it was the dollar store. But it's the book where I document what I did for weights, what exercise did I do, how many reps, how many sets, what were my warm-up sets. All of that goes in this book. So I can reflect back on it. So the next week that I do that same workout, I usually up my weights, decrease my, if I don't up my weights, I might decrease my rest time in between sets, or I'll add another couple reps, or I'll increase the weight a little bit. I'll do something to make it harder for myself. I'm going to do something so different. And I actually got this from Mike Wick. Don't know if you know Mike Wick. Great trainer out of Canada from Pure Muscle and Fitness. Now, Mike has this channel, Wicked, WYCKED, I believe. And if it's not there, shoot me a message and I'll give you the link. Watch his stuff. He's an amazing trainer, amazing. So what he doesn't keep a logbook. And I thought, it's because he's so knowledgeable, he doesn't need it. He taught me an idea. He put a little idea in my head. The idea was, it's easier to focus on your technique and forget your ego if you don't write stuff down. Now, I'm not saying this is for everybody, but I'm going to try this as an experiment. Now, this requires some self-control on my part because I like to document stuff. I am going to not document my workouts, try it for a little while, and see how much more I focus on my technique. So even if I do less weight, if I'm recruiting that muscle and have a better mind-muscle connection, I don't need to do more weight. There's a podcast. I don't know if you watch Cutler TV. Jay was doing an interview. He did a recent interview with Phil Heath. And Phil was saying he can recruit 50-pound dumbbell curls. He doesn't need to do the heavy ones because he knows how to really focus his biceps so much and squeeze it so much, he gets better results out of the 50-pound dumbbells. We're talking about Phil Heath here, by the way, guys, versus 70-pound. Sometimes it's not the weight, it's how you recruit the weight. And I am really going to try this as an experiment for myself. I'm just giving you, this is my accountability to you guys. I'm going to try to train without a logbook, really focus on the mind-muscle connection, every rep, every set. Because I think I'm doing that when I'm writing stuff down, but I'm not so sure. So I'm going to test it out and see. Try it. Again, trial and error, guys. This is how you learn. I'm not immune to this. I make mistakes too. I want to learn by my mistakes, though. I'm like, if I'm going to make mistakes, make them now so I can learn. Because here's the thing. The more mistakes I make, the smarter I get. Because the idea is I want to make an improvement. Not necessarily I'm not going to make another mistake again. Maybe I need to fine-tune it for maybe a different situation so it works even better for me. That means I'm not too old to learn, despite my gray hair. That's a good thing. I never want to stop learning. Now, sometimes I'm tired of learning because I just want to take a break. But overall, I want to improve. And I want to encourage you guys to improve. So I just want to be an example that I'm not perfect. I'm trying stuff too. Doesn't always work, but that's okay. And I want to let you guys know it's okay to want to be better and to be so stubborn. Now, I'm stubborn. I have a stubborn mother, thanks to my mom. But I use that stubbornness as a characteristic that works for me rather than against me. And the respect of sometimes I want to give up, but I'm so stubborn, I'm not going to let myself give up. I'll have moments of weakness, but they're moments. And then I'm like, screw that. I'm back to the work table. Let's get this on. how am I going to achieve this differently? I'm not going to be that bull in the china shop and just going for it because I have all this motivation. It's calculated, strategic choices. And sometimes they work out. Sometimes they need to be fine-tuned. But if you keep at it, guys, you're going to get success. And that is going to help give you confidence, because you're getting confidence not because you're getting the desired result right away. You're getting confidence because you keep trying. You're not giving up, because you're not going to settle. Not changing is settling for your current life. And every single one of you can do better. And I believe you can. Don't give up on you. I'm not giving up on you. You don't give up on you. So, Mel, thanks for joining. Have a good evening. Oh, smoke one. Okay. Hope all has been well. Where have you been on the RX show? Okay, smoke one. Let me give you an update. And by the way, thank you. That's very nice of you to say, smoke one. And Happy New Year to you too. So after the Olympia, I got a very bad, and I'm still recovering, but I'm much better today. I call it the post-Olympia flu and cold. So I did come prepared with my Halls just in case I started coughing. And I've got my species water with some EAAs in it, but and a lot of hydration products. But that's why Dave and I haven't been able to do iron therapy, and that's why I also haven't been able to do my lives. Today's my first live actually for this year, and since the Olympia. Dave and I were going to do the show earlier today, but just from scheduling, we couldn't get it to work. So next week should be the first iron therapy show for 2023. So we will be back. And my videos, my weekly Friday videos will be returning as of this Friday. I'm happy to report. So that's where I've been. Raul, do you use caffeine daily? Lesley, thoughts on using nonstop and cycling it? Caffeine, I'm the type of person that likes to go through mornings without caffeine because I don't want to rely on it to keep me energized. I have a similar attitude towards pre-workouts. Now, I know a lot of people are big fans of pre-workouts. It helps them push harder. For me personally, if I can push myself harder, I'm also going to be safer, because now I'm not saying I will never use a pre-workout. I actually have some leftover free samples from the Olympia for pre-workouts. I'll probably use those up from time to time. But I don't want to necessarily rely on it to have energy, because I can't develop it naturally, then how am I going to build on it if I'm always relying on it artificially? Now, when I'm in prep, I will take a little bit of caffeine in the morning, and a lot of that has to do with helping me get through my fasted cardio in the morning. Now, do I recommend that all year round? No. If you can go without caffeine, again, it's relying on other energy sources, especially when you're not in prep. Now, I know people that will have a coffee every morning. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. If you're having cups and cups throughout the day, I wouldn't recommend that. I don't think that's healthy. But as far as if you can go without something, caffeine isn't the worst thing in the world. Again, it depends on the quantity. And oftentimes there's caffeine in certain foods or even drinks. I mean, I have this energy drink. Is it Rain or is it Bang? And one of them has caffeine in it, and I can't remember which one. So sometimes I'll have something that has caffeine in it. So it's not necessarily I'm drinking strictly for the caffeine. I'm drinking it for, let's say, the energy, the EAAs, and it has caffeine in it. But could I go without it? Yes, absolutely. But I would recommend cycling on and off it, because here's the other thing. With caffeine, like many substances, this isn't just for caffeine, so this is a really good question, Raul, is that caffeine is something we can develop a tolerance to. So let's say you were able to start with, whether it's a caffeine pill or let's say a cup of coffee. in the morning. That might keep you awake, for all morning. But if you have it every day, you're going to come to a point where you develop what we call a tolerance to it, where the caffeine may work, but maybe it doesn't last as long. And it's almost feeling like you either need 2 cups of coffee to get you through that period of time in the morning, or you might need, let's say, something stronger. Some people have maybe a cappuccino or, something stronger in caffeine just to get them through. And we develop a tolerance. The way to kind of bring that tolerance down is to go cold turkey and then reintroduce it later. And again, that's for a lot of substances, not just for caffeine, but I appreciate the question. So my answer is yes. If you can go out without it for a little while and then put it back in, that's what I would recommend. All right. So, Milt, take care. Have a great rest of your evening. Thank you for joining. Raw. Okay, that's Lesley. Okay, thanks, Lesley. Need to hear that. Okay, cool, Raw. So, guys, I hope that this has helped you. Again, if you have further questions or comments or suggestions for future videos, either put them in the messages below and I will get to them later. Or if you want, DM me, send me a direct message on Instagram. My Instagram handle is LesleyT_mental_iron, and I'm happy to address those. And again, I'm always open to suggestions for future videos, and that can include also for iron therapy when I do with Dave Palumbo. We're always looking for ideas of what you guys want to hear, because we have ideas that we think you guys might find interesting, but obviously we want to be able to address what you guys are genuinely having questions about. So feel free to post them, or like I said, send me DM. But I'm going to wrap up for today. We've gone a little bit over an hour, so I'm happy I was able to make it. And I wish you guys a great rest of your day. And I will be back here next week on Monday with Iron Therapy with Mental Iron, the live. I will be doing at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I will have the new video out on Friday. So have a great rest of your day, guys. And remember to keep your mental game on. Have a great day. Bye for now.